It's 2015, it's a new year, and in the new year we throw out the old things and bring in the new things. So today I'm going to do a book unhaul. Hi everybody, it's Lydia here. So today I was looking at my bookshelf and thinking I've got to have a book reorganisation, and so I was going through my whole bookshelf and I discovered that there were quite a lot of books on there that realistically I'm never going to read again, and so I was harsh with myself, and I have quite a few here which I've had for a while and I've been thinking I really should get rid of that. Why is it still on my bookshelf? So that's what I'm doing today. Let's do this. So I'm going to start off with two books which I reviewed back in September, and those are The Rosie Project and The Rosie Effect by Graham Simsion. I didn't hear about this until The Rosie Effect was coming out, and I randomly won an ARC on Goodreads of it. I got bought The Rosie Project to read before that came out, and just didn't get on with them. I know a lot of people love these books. The thing for me was that A, I didn't really like the lead character for a multitude of reasons. B, I kind of felt, particularly with regards to The Rosie Project, we were laughing at the lead character. The lead character in these books is, it's never specifically identified, but it's sort of that he's on the autism spectrum, and he's got some form of Asperger's, and I kind of felt, particularly in the first book, that we were really laughing at him. It reminded me, not to the extremities of The Big Bang Theory, but it reminded me a lot of that. So that's why I'm getting rid of these books. Just didn't, I just didn't enjoy them. The first book especially, it took me forever to get through because I didn't want to read it. So what can you do? They're going. The next book I'm unhauling is Death at Intervals by Jose Saramago. Now, I bought this because I absolutely love Blindless by Saramago. It's one of my favourite books. I think I mentioned it before, but this one I didn't enjoy it half as much, and it's very similar in a way. Blindness is basically about a world where people randomly start going blind one day, and it's trying to survive with that and everything. Death at Intervals is when people stop dying one day and how that affects society. So there's a similarity certainly in there, and I just didn't get into this at all. I didn't finish it, and it's been on my bookshelf for years, and I don't actually want to read it. I look at it and think, I just don't really want to read it, and I don't think I'm ever going to want to read it, so that's going. Next up is Dodger by Terry Pratchett. This is a book I actually picked up in the Departures Lounge in King's Cross when I was on my way to Paris a couple of years ago, and I just didn't get into it. I've tried reading Terry Pratchett books in the past and didn't like the writing style. The only book of his that I've read is Good Omens, which was obviously a collaboration with Neil Gaiman, so I think maybe I enjoyed it a lot because of that. But with this, I just didn't get on with it. There's just something about the writing style I just didn't like. It sounds like an interesting idea. It's about, unsurprisingly, this Dodger who he just scavenges and goes around Dickensian London until he finds this girl, and then things start to get messy and everyone is trying to get their hands on Dodger. It sounded interesting, and I thought it was going to be really good, and it got good reviews, but I think I'm just not a Pratchett fan, which is like a crime probably, but what can you do? Next up is a book that I got, God, years ago. I must have been a kid. I don't know, I was in early high school, so it was a long time ago. And it is The Doomspell by Cliff McNeish. This is part of a series, I think, and I remember a lot of other people reading it. I think I got about 3/4 of the way into this, and I don't think I overly enjoyed it. I can't remember anything about this book whatsoever, but I looked at it today and I thought, nope, I'm not going to get on with that now because it was aimed at a younger age and I just wouldn't enjoy it at this age. So if I had gotten around to reading it 10 years ago, I might have enjoyed it, but as of now I'm never going to read it, so that's going. Next up is Fear Itself by S.M.R. Cooper. I was to and froing over whether to get rid of this because it is an independently published book and I like to support independently published authors. and I didn't know whether I was going to get hold of this again because it is independently published, but I'm not going to read it again. It's a fantasy book, and I actually reviewed it back in September or August last year, and I just didn't get into it. The thing with this book is that it is a fantasy, and it doesn't have any build up. It just throws you directly into the action, and then when the action is over, it's just ends literally as soon as it's finished. It's just the action happens and that's it. That's the entire book, and it's really confusing. The first chapter or so I didn't realise I was reading about 20-30 somethings. I thought I was reading about children. That was how confusing it was, and there was just no room for description or just generally writing for the sake of writing description sort of thing. It was just this happened, this happened, this happened, this happens, and it was just too clinical for me. I just didn't actually get into it at all. So yeah, I am sorry to get rid of this. I will link you to my review here, so if it is your kind of bag, then, and you can get hold of it, then do, but yeah, it's just not for me. Next up is a book I bought in a bookshop on a total whim, and it didn't go to pass. This is The Shining Girls by Lauren Bukes. Just didn't get on with it. Last year I tried to kind of diversify the genres I was reading, and it didn't work. Really, I'm still reading tons of fantasy. This is a crime novel, thriller novel, and it's about this girl who gets attacked and she survives, and she's trying to find out if other girls were also attacked and whether there's any evidence against the person or persons who attacked her. But it just wasn't enjoyable. I didn't want to read it, and I don't want to read it, and I'm never going to read it, so that's going. Penultimate book is Noggin by John Corey Whaley. I tried to read this back in September or October, and I thought I was going to really enjoy it because it kind of reminded me-ish of a sort of John Green, David Levitan kind of thing. In fact, I think there might be a John Green quote one here somewhere. No, maybe not. It kind of reminded me of that style of book, but I didn't get into it at all. It's basically about this guy who has a head transplant because his entire body was cancerified. And so his head is transplanted onto another person's body, but it takes about a decade or so, and so everyone he knows and loves is 10 years older and he's still the same age. So yeah, it could have been really good, but I just getting into it, and yeah, I just didn't want to read it. It wasn't, I don't know, I just didn't want to read it. The final book I'm unhauling is Past Imperfect by Julian Fellowes. Julian Fellowes, for those of you who don't know, writes Downton Abbey and is a brilliant actor and has written a lot of other stuff as well. But he wrote this, and so I bought it because I thought, oh, that will be well written. I think it was well written, just there wasn't much to the story. It's basically about these two people who meet. I think both they were romantically involved when they were like in their 20s, and then they meet again about 40 or 50 years later when both of their partners have died. I think that's what happens, and it's kind of whether they can rekindle the flame, and I think there's something about a child about who could be theirs. I'm not sure. It's something like that, but I just didn't warm to it, didn't get into it, and yeah, I've had it on my bookshelf for a while and thought, oh, I probably should read that at some point, but I don't really want to, which probably sums up the whole of this pile. There are a lot of books on here that I just don't want to read. Why did I buy them if I don't want to read? So there we go, what can you do? That is the final book in my unhaul today. A lot of those books were just books that I don't want to read, and they're just taking up space on my bookshelf, and I'm trying to be harsher. And this year, I didn't mention it, I don't think, in my resolution video, but I'm trying to be more strict with myself. I'm only going to buy the physical books of sequels, or books by authors I've already read, or books that I have read and want to read again, but only read on the Kindle sort of thing. Because I'm going to try and spend less on books, because I'm meant to be saving up and I'm just buying books, so yeah, that's the theory anyway. That is it for today's video. I'll be back on Monday with a bookshelf jig. That was the whole point. That was how I ended up doing this unhaul video, is because I'm gonna re-sort out my bookshelf because I don't like how it looks at the moment. So I'm gonna be doing that on Monday, and I will see you then. I hope you have a good weekend. Until then, bye!